Well, to get more insight, we can speak to Professor of US and International Politics at University College Dublin, Scott Lucas. Thanks so much for your time and joining us once again on France 24. Can I start by asking you what your opinion is on this 21-point plan we're hearing more and more of from the United States? I mean, do you think there actually has been a change in momentum from the international community, that the US might be actually pulling something together and we could see action on Gaza?
Well, I hate to be negative on this Monday morning, especially when it's about the possibility of stopping the mass killing in Gaza. But this is not a 21-point plan. These are 21 general points that are vague in key areas, really designed for the U.S. and Israel to get the initiative back from those who have been calling for a halt to the attacks in Gaza. The reason why I say that is that there was a plan which was very close to acceptance only a few weeks ago, at least acceptance by Hamas. That plan would have involved a significant Israeli withdrawal back to the borders of Gaza in Israel. It would have involved the release of all hostages over a phased 60-day move to a lasting halt to the attacks. It would have involved the restoration of humanitarian aid into Gaza, and it would have provided a plan for governance in the Strip. That was rejected by Benjamin Netanyahu, or to be more accurate, he didn't even consider it. Instead, he launched this assault on Gaza City that you've been talking about. Now, because that plan that Hamas almost accepted had been promoted by the Americans in the spring, they had to come up with something new, and that's why you get these 21 points. Why do I say it's vague? First of all, while demanding that Hamas release the Israeli hostages in 48 hours, not 60 days, 48 hours. On the other side, it's very, very vague about what an Israeli withdrawal would mean. It is very, very vague. Well, it demands that Hamas lay down its arms, but Arab states have said that they may not be willing to accept that condition, that Hamas, while not returning to political power, may be able to retain its arms in the short term. And importantly, it is extremely vague on governance for Gaza. We keep hearing about this transitional authority, whether it might include the UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, but which Palestinian groups will be allowed to be in the transitional authority? Will the Palestinian Authority be allowed to be part of that governance? Until you get something more detailed on those points, there's no possibility that Hamas is going to accept this, but that means Benjamin Netanyahu can continue to say that Hamas, and not he, is the problem.
Okay, so very much political manoeuvring. When you look at it there, the US really the only steadfast ally of Israel in many ways at the current moment, even when Israel bombed Doha, attacking meetings that the US, negotiations US had called for. Do you think the US support is ever going to change when it comes to Israel?
I think there are limits on the US support in small areas, small but significant areas. So for example, the Netanyahu government was threatening to annex the West Bank only a few days ago in response to the growing movement to recognize the state of Palestine by the international community. And the Trump administration let it be known that that would be unacceptable. Now, Israel is continuing to expand the settlements, the illegal settlements in the West Bank, however. And most importantly, no, the U.S. has given a blank check to the Israeli military operations, including the overrunning of Gaza City with all the destruction and deprivation that causes. And the U.S. has given effectively a blank check to Israel as it limits the humanitarian aid that goes into the Strip with the ongoing threat of starvation for at least some Gazan civilians.
Internationally, we did see, some recognition for a Palestine state from now the majority of UN member states, but still no major action. What do you think countries are waiting for when it comes to Gaza?
Well, I think we are seeing action, but it's gradual. It's not what we would want, to try to be decisive. Let me say, first of all, that I actually think the recognition of the state of Palestine by a number of additional states, including 3 G7 countries, the UK, France, and Canada, is significant because it puts a key marker down. It says that if Israel continues its attacks, it is on a state of Palestine, not just on civilians. And it says that if and when we can get a ceasefire, we have the starting point for negotiations, which is there will be a two-state resolution. Beyond that, I think the issue is going to be increasing economic pressure on Israel. I think you're seeing individual European states that are taking the moves to restrict their economic links. I think there is an increasing call on the European Union to take a significant state in this regard. And I think other states significantly are looking at least at the restriction of trade, if not sanctions, on Israel. Now, again, that won't be decisive in stopping the ceasefire, but it could bolster the opposition of those within Israel who do not want a continuation of the mass killing. In other words, I think if we're going to have a halt to the Israeli mass attacks, it's going to have to come from within, a significant show from the Israeli population to Benjamin Netanyahu that he has to find another way to get those hostages back.
Professor Scott Lucas of University College Dublin, thanks very much for your time and bringing us your analysis of the situation. Much appreciated.